Data science is an experimental science. Data scientists need to play with the data. And it's not very effective if you make the data scientist work in a production environment for playing with the data. They need a separate, I call it data R&D area, where they can combine curated data and uncurated data and try new things without worrying about they're going to break something or they're going to take all the resources away for some mission critical production job. And also, you want to be able to work with data that's not yet in production. If I have to wait for the normal production cycle to, publish data into a data product, it takes too long. How do you decide what data goes into the data products? That's where this data R&D function takes place. So to make the data scientists successful in this data R&D function, we need to give them some tools. And I find that one of the most important tools is this idea of a data lab, where data scientists can provision resources, storage and compute, and maybe software that's not yet sort of mainstream approved within an enterprise, and have that area be a place where they can do these experiments. And as they're experimenting, they need to be able to have self-service. So self-service provisioning of the data labs, as well as self-service access to data, not only in the data products, but also in the raw data, in the data lake, if you will, or even external sources. So giving tools for self-service, for grabbing data from wherever it might be in an enterprise, bring it together into a data lab. Some people call it sandboxes or innovation space. There are different names for it. It doesn't matter what you call it. But this area is an area where you can, without too heavy governance. Now, again, you have to protect the data. You have to make sure that the PII data, personally identifiable information, is protected. Anything sensitive is protected. But the data scientists are going to, play with that data in a slightly undirected way. Now, some people get offended by play with, but it really is experimentation. You don't necessarily know what the outcomes are going to be, and you know what good is when you see it, but you have to go looking for it. This is part of what it means to be an experimental science. You have a hypothesis, and you test the hypothesis against the data. Now, one of the key points to success for this data R&D lab is that we promote the successes into a proper manufacturing process. So good governance, where we have a process for experimenting with the data, having a business stakeholder involved. So this isn't just data scientists, looking for pieces of gold in a coal mine, but rather a business sponsor saying, this is the outcome that I'm looking for. And how you're going to get it, the data scientist is going to look for different ways of doing it. They don't know the outcomes specifically until they work with the data, and they're working together with the business sponsor to give them guidance. The data lab gives them a place to do that, but you should not put things into production in the data lab itself. There need to be processes for promoting the innovation from the data labs into the mainstream data pipelines, automated, productionalized, and so on. So these teams that are working in the data R&D area, it's the data scientists, it's the data engineers, it's the business stakeholder, it's the scrum master, all working together in these sprints, looking for the innovation. And sometimes you fail, and that's okay. Failure is a learning process. And if you fail, you try something else. You try some different data or a different approach, and that's the way innovation happens. Innovation isn't magic. Innovation is hard work. Innovation is an experimental science. And the data scientists, when given the right tools, they can have massive success in doing this. You learn a lot in the data labs. You promote that learning into the production environment and then turn it over to the data engineers to completely automate. Data scientists are not great data engineers, but when they work as a team, they can deliver huge value So I strongly recommend that you consider this idea of data labs and introducing data labs into your data ecosystem, a place where the data scientists can innovate, and make sure that you create the governance processes so that you promote the innovation into productionalized pipelines for delivering the value in an automated way.